In this video, I want to be talking all things osteoarthritis. We want to talk about what actually is osteoarthritis. We want to talk about how many people are suffering with osteoarthritis, and unfortunately why the statistics show that there's a good chance that either you or loved ones will be diagnosed with osteoarthritis at some point. We want to talk, though, importantly about the things that you need to do in order to firstly change your mindset around osteoarthritis, dispel some of the common misconceptions that are out there around arthritis, and I want to give you 4 actionable tips to strive forward, even if you have been diagnosed with osteoarthritis, to keep up with your exercise and well-being. And hang around to the end of the video where I'm going to answer one of the common questions I get, which is actually, does clicking your knuckles bring on arthritis? So let's dive right in. Now, firstly, if you are new to the channel, my name's John. Great to meet you. I'm the head therapist here at John W Sports Injury. What we're looking to do at this channel is 3 simple things. I want to help you to understand your body better so that you can get rid of pain and weakness, and you can ultimately strive forward to hit your health and well-being goals. Now, nothing can be more frustrating sometimes than this condition called osteoarthritis. So I want to talk about what is osteoarthritis first of all. Well, osteoarthritis is a type of arthritis, and there are other types of arthritis such as rheumatoid arthritis, but osteoarthritis is a type of arthritis that affects the bones, and in particular the lining that we have of our bones that prevent the bones from rubbing on each other. So osteoarthritis can affect any of our joints because all of our joints are formed by bones going onto bones. So if we imagine our knee joint, femur bone coming onto the lower leg bones, the tibia and the fibula, but those bones are joint. Now, to stop those rubbing on each other and becoming sore, these layer of the bones are lined with cartilage. Now, unfortunately, over time, this cartilage can degenerate, and what then happens is we get this feeling of bone on bone and this soreness in the area. How does it present itself? Well, typically we get pain around those joints, often suffered in weight-bearing joints, so things like the spine, the hip, the knee, the ankle, but as I said, can affect all of the joints. It's particularly bad during cold weather, and I'm going to come on to talk about why that might be the case in more detail. We can particularly see swelling and inflammation around the area. Can we reverse this? Once we get this, can we get rid of it? Well, unfortunately, the answer to that is no. We can't reverse the condition. You know, it's happened via degeneration. It's happened over a period of time, and that kind of is what it is at that point. And how many people are affected by this condition, and will it affect you? Well, it's predicted at any point that around 1 in 4 people walking around have been diagnosed with arthritis. So this is an incredibly common condition. Does it only affect people of a certain age? Well, again, no. What we do know, though, is its rate of prevalence really increases as we go through the ages. So we know that between the ages of sort of 20 and 44, it's predicted that around 7 to 8% of people are diagnosed with arthritis. These figures start to jump up as we go beyond those ages. So between the ages of about 44 and 65, we're looking at about 30% of people being diagnosed with arthritis. And then when we get above 65 years old, we're looking at around 50% of people at any one point being diagnosed with arthritis. And unfortunately, if you're a female watching this video, those numbers jump up a little bit more. It's slightly more common in females, and above 65, about 60% of females might be diagnosed with arthritis. So this is all sounding pretty negative at this stage, and I'm conscious of that. There's a good chance that it might affect you or a loved one. The sheer statistics show that. We know it's a condition that can't be reversed. It's a condition of degeneration. You know, one of these frustrating signs that we're all aging, and that's how the body goes. It degenerates as we age. But now that's where I want to put the end to that negativity, because what I do tend to find in clinic is people that come in and say, well, I can't do this anymore because I've got arthritis. I need to stop exercising because I've got arthritis. That, for me, needs to be a complete change of mindset around arthritis. Yes, we can't reverse these conditions, but what we can do is support the body to allow us to carry on doing those things that we love to do. And actually, in order to be free from pain, and in order to be more comfortable in our everyday life, I think it's even more important that we're doing those exercises. And my big, I suppose, takeaway from this video is a phrase that I use in clinic a lot. And what I want you to take away from this video is that motion is lotion. Now, what do I mean by that? So again, this phrase, motion is lotion. So we know that the joints have degenerated. So this cartilage that's designed to stop these bones rubbing on each other is degenerated. So we're starting to get that. So we've lost lubrication. So if we lose this lubrication of the joint, what we do, or we know, is that we need to supply supply, additional lubrication. How can we do that? Well, things like increased blood supply to the area. How can I get an increased blood supply to a joint? Then I can move it. And so what we ultimately need to do is we need to find a way of moving. And this comes around our first tip. And what we're going to talk about as I go through these tips and the things that you need to be doing in order to be more comfortable with arthritis, we're going to be talking about exercise modification, stretching of the area, strengthening of the area, and also heat management of the area. So firstly, let's talk about this exercise modification. You need to find a way to keep yourself mobile, and in particular to keep that joint mobile, to encourage this movement, to encourage this lotion, and we do that via motion. So if you're somebody who has been running a lot, for example, and might have developed arthritis in the knees and you now find running too painful, well, at this stage what we need to do is take running out of the equation, because we know that that is aggravating the factors, but by no means do we mean now sit down. We could perhaps take our running onto something like a cross trainer, which will put less impact through the area and might be more comfortable and in fact beneficial to the area, because we can keep that motion going. It might be that we take somebody into a swimming pool where we take out that weight bearing of movement, but we keep the movement going via the support of the water in order to create this additional movement. So what you need to do at this stage, if you have been diagnosed with osteoarthritis, is find an individual rehab program that really suits you, that suits what you want to do, that suits your goals, so that you can keep striving forwards and perhaps even return to those sports that you love to do. Secondly, I mentioned stretching being important. What we know is that we want to put as little pressure on the joint as possible. Again, if I come back to this knee joint and the muscles that are affecting that knee joint, if they become shortened and tight, we know that that's going to put more pressure on the joint. More pressure on the joint, less movement of the joint is going to lead to more arthritic symptoms and more pain. So again, you want to find an individual rehabilitation and stretching program for your affected joint that can make sure that any muscle affecting that joint, you can increase the flexibility around that joint. And the same thing goes for strengthening. If the muscles acting upon the joint are not strong enough for the demands, and then we're saying that we want to actually increase the amount of movement that we're doing at the joint, if the muscles aren't strong enough to tolerate that movement, what they're going to do is they're going to fatigue quicker, they're going to develop trigger points, they're going to lose flexibility, ultimately develop dysfunction around the joint that will aggravate the symptoms in the area. So finding a correct strengthening program, now again, it might be that we go into a non-weight bearing set of strength exercises, so we take the pressure off the joint but actually just act upon increasing the strength of the muscles surrounding the joint. So again, I would encourage you to seek the advice of a medical practitioner who can really help you to find that program. And my final tip that I mentioned was around heat management. We know that the symptoms get worse when it's cold. Why is this happening? Well, because we're losing that lubrication to the area. We know that when we're colder, we get less of a blood supply to the area. And what's happening there is without that blood supply to the area, we get what we call vasoconstriction happening. And actually then we're getting less lubrication. So if we heat the area, if it becomes warm, we get vasodilation, we get more blood supply. And what's happening there is we get this additional lubrication. So if you're about to start an exercise session, or if you're feeling discomfort, warming the area of your soreness can be really helpful as well. So with these tips, I hope you see that although I started this video in a very negative fashion, and I think people have a very negative mindset generally towards arthritis, what we need to do is have a more realistic approach. We know that it's going to affect a huge amount of people. We know that the body degenerates over time. I'm sure that comes as no surprise to people beyond about their sort of 20s, that we typically start, once we get into 30s and 40s, we start to realise those things. And unfortunately, those things do only increase as we go. But we don't need to be defeated by arthritis. What we want to do is actually strive forwards and know what's going to help us and modify accordingly so that we can keep going. And that really is the change of mindset that I wanted to get across in this video. I also mentioned at the start of the video a conception, or a misconception I should say, around cracking knuckles. Does cracking knuckles lead to arthritis? You might have been told this as a kid, one of those old wives' tales. Now, we have never found any credible research that actually links those two. In fact, there was a study conducted, I believe, by a doctor, and I think it was across about 60 years, that he cracked one set of knuckles on one hand every day, and then on the other he left that untouched. So you'd expect the arthritis to be far more developed in one hand than the other at the end of the study, but in fact at the end of the study there were no additional degenerational changes to the joints in the hand. So that is one perhaps misconception that is out there. But my biggest misconception that I want you to get rid of is that arthritis means that you have to stop. In fact, for me, it actually means quite the opposite. You need to move more, but you need to find the appropriate way to move so that we don't aggravate the joint and in fact benefit the joint.
Has that video been helpful for you? If it has and you made it this far in the video, well, I'm hugely grateful. I hope that those tips are things that you can put into place and you can help others to put those into place. We've talked about how many people are affected by this by doing me a quick favor and hitting that thumbs up button down below to show me that this is the type of content that you like. And as I said, most importantly, it shows others and helps others to see this video. And if you do like this type of stuff and you're enjoying our content and you haven't subscribed yet, well, why not? Hit that subscribe button down below, hit the bell, because then you'll be the first to know as soon as I drop our next video. And speaking of another video, well, here's a video to help you on your health and wellbeing journey, and I will look forward to seeing you on the next one.